Good morning, tribe. How you guys doing? Well, it's morning for me. I don't know what it is for you guys. Excuse me. As you can see, I just woke up not too long ago. But good morning, good morning, good morning. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is going to be your review of Growing Up Hip Hop, Season 4, Episode question mark. I'll put it in the description. Um, This episode, we left off last week where we saw Master P and his family showing up at the jail to talk to his brother, who's currently on a hunger strike, to try to convince him to eat, find out what his concerns are, and then we found out. Well, we know that there was a rift between him and Master P and his brother. C Murder is the guy that's in jail. That's his stage name. That's not his real name is Corey. And again, if you follow these types of things outside of the TV show, you know that there's been a rift there. And unfortunately, whether you're famous or not, when you go to jail and you're in jail for a long time, a lot of things go into that. And C Murder's been in jail for, like I said, I feel like it's been at least 15 to 20 years, because I remember him going to jail when I was younger, when Master P was in his heyday, when you could hear a No Limit song on the radio like 24/7. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's been in jail for a really long time, and in current day there seems to be a break in his case. So there is even a possibility that maybe he could get a new trial. That doesn't mean it's going to be a positive outcome, but it seems like one of the witnesses is recanting and saying that the police coerced him and blackmailed him into making the statement, saying that they saw C Murder commit the murder or something very crucial to his case. So it's interesting because it's possible that there may be some breaks in the case, but that's a whole nother way down a rabbit hole with that one. But they went into the jail. The cameras could not go into the jail. But when they came out, looks like they had a really good meeting, because they were there for like 3 hours. When they came out, and there were pictures and everything, and Master P said that, he had a good opportunity to talk to his brother, and they were able to clear some things up. And he was like, at the end of the day, we're family, and it's going to always be love. As a sidebar before I forget, because the last time I forgot to say it, one thing I really like, Master P is an executive producer on the show, but the one thing I like, the way that Master P is handling himself versus Pepper, who I love. Pep. Let me tell you something. Y'all know I love me some Pep. I love Pep. Salt and Pepper. I grew up on Salt and Pepper. The first time I ever got in trouble in school is because I was doing the choreography to a Salt and Pepper video, and I got in trouble. And so that's a whole nother conversation. But I feel like Master P is having a hands-off approach. He's an executive producer, but he's not in every episode. Like we saw season 1, he was a lot more involved, and I feel like he's decided to just take a step back and just sporadically show up. And the one thing that they've shown this season, which they're not putting a lot of it in the main story, they're putting it like through the commercial breaks, is how much Master P really gives back, and how much him and Romeo do community service. There was a clip a few weeks ago where there's a program where they give to inner city kids who need glasses. And I forget the name of the organization, but as an educator, let me tell y'all something that is so important. You know how many times I deal with students who just can't see? It's not that they don't know the work, it's not that they don't understand what's going on in class. They just cannot see. And when you talk to the parent, depending on how transparent the parent wants to be, at the end of the day, it comes down to the parents just not having the money. And as someone who wears glasses, glasses are not cheap. I mean, as an adult, I choose to spend a lot of money on my frames because I like fancy frames. But even I remember being as a kid, having to get the glasses off of the shelf, the special shelf that, as an adult, I realized those are the frames that are covered by my mother's insurance. You know what I mean? Or my parents' insurance. And it's those are the types of organizations that don't get a lot of play, but are so important. And again, I'm down a rabbit hole, y'all. I'm sorry. Let me get back. So anyway, but we saw another clip where Master P, while he was down in Louisiana, he went and talked to a juvenile detention center to try to talk to those kids. And again, I told y'all, For my new subscribers, you might not know, but my old subscribers, y'all know, I worked in the juvenile detention center. I taught in the juvenile detention center for a couple of years. And again, it means a lot when we can get celebrities to come in, or people who have, and you don't always have to even be a celebrity. You could just be somebody that did it. You know what I mean? Somebody who could say, look, I was here where you were and now I own my own business. Or I was where you were and I went to college and law school and look at me now. So it's not even always about having a name, like a celebrity behind your name, but it's about being able to show kids, look, I did it, I made a mistake, but this doesn't have to be your future. This doesn't have to be how you spend the rest of your life. And so, again, I say, I really respect Master P for how he carries himself. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, rabbit hole, back. So that was that. And like I said, later on in the episode, we see where Romeo comes down and they visit his the uncle's grave, and they just talk about the importance of family and how, life is short and we just can't get caught up in the bull and then the nonsense. And then we saw them go and visit the juvenile detention center, and that's pretty much Romeo's contribution to this episode. So back to LA. All right. So here's what's going on in LA, you guys. We have, where do I want to start? All right, let's get the Simmonses out the way. So we have Vanessa, Angela, and JoJo, right? We know that Vanessa and Angela are kind of beefing right now. We find out that they're not even speaking. That Vanessa's not even speaking to Angela. And they get a phone call from Rush. I forget the name of the organization, but it's their philanthropic family organization that's it has like Rush something in it, and it deals with bringing art into the schools. And it's got the three brothers. It's Russell Simmons, Run, and then their uncle, I think his name is Danny. What a lot of people don't know about the Simmonses is that everybody knows about Russell Simmons, everybody knows about Joe Simmons, Run, aka Run DMC. But a lot of people don't know about the third brother, who I believe is the oldest, and he is actually a very, very talented artist. And so their organization, it brings art into the schools. Again, we're talking about philanthropic work, and they want the kids, Vanessa and Angela, to be on the board. And the purpose of bringing them on the board is that they want to try to link into a younger demographic as far as they want to try to do something new with the fundraising. Let's do something fresh. Let's do something new. Let's get some young people involved. And we may not be able to do a $1,500 a plate dinner, but let's if we could do a $100 concert, and we can start bringing young people in and getting them connected to the organization and connected to the idea of bringing art into the schools. Because again, go down my rabbit hole again. When we start cutting money from schools, the first programs they cut are art and music. That's the first thing they cut. I know at one point in time, there was even a grant. When I worked for the District of Columbia Public Schools, there was even a grant that was given to us that was specific about making sure that every school had an art teacher, every school had a music teacher. And that still didn't work. Because again, when principals have to start cutting, and they have to start cutting teachers, like they've cut all that they can cut from their auxiliary budgets, when they have to start cutting teachers, the first things, they're not going to cut any core classes. They're not going to do that. They're not going to cut a math teacher and keep an art teacher. But at the end of the day, kids need art just as much. So this is a way to bring art and music into the community. And so they want to bring the girls in. And so the big thing is y'all going to have to work together. Even though y'all not speaking with each other, y'all going to have to figure out and work together. And of course, I saw this coming from a mile away because, what have we been arguing about? Arguing about working together. Arguing about finding a project we can work on. Well, ding, 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 ding. Here's the project. It's falling in your lap. Whether it was planned that way or it just so happened to happen that way. The two, JoJo sort of intervenes. And, people have been giving JoJo a whole lot of flack on this show. But let me tell you something about what I like about JoJo. I like the fact that JoJo, he don't cut them no slack. Because he's their brother. And he don't care that you're Vanessa Simmons or you're Angela Simmons. You're my sister. And I'm going to talk to you like you my sister. And he kind of got Angela together. And he told her, he was like, look. He was like, this has a lot to do with how you've handled the situation, not just what you've done, because no, we know that you would never purposely do anything to hurt your sister, but it's about how you handled it and how you're not taking her feelings into consideration. And JoJo was telling her, look, just listen to her, just be quiet, let her talk, listen to what she has to say, and it will probably blow over. But the biggest problem that Vanessa is having is that she feels like that she's not being heard and her feelings aren't being validated. And Angela was like, well, I mean, y'all was talking, and he was like, no, 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 you walked out. You didn't finish the conversation, and that's where you're being petty, because you didn't finish the conversation. You didn't allow her to finish saying what she had to say. You walked out. And Angela was like, well, that's because y'all were yelling at me, and I don't like to be yelled at. Okay, I get that. However, at the same time, it was your sister and your brother trying to talk to you. And she said she felt attacked. And I understand that when you feel attacked, most people are going to make a left if they feel attacked. Ain't nobody going to sit there and let somebody keep yin at them. But Angela, that just seems to be her MO. Every time the conversation gets tough, she rolls out. And this goes all the way back to other shows I've seen her on. It's like whenever conversations get to be too much, she just rolls out. But he got her together, and they finally met up. They were going to meet to talk about, they had a meeting with with their uncle who lives in New York. So it was like a phone meeting, and that's when he was explaining what he wants to do and why he wants them on the board and all that good stuff. And what ended up happening was when they got off the phone, they had a conversation, and for a minute it was going left. It was going left for a minute, but then it came back around, and Angela finally, in my opinion, sincerely, because I was like, if I got to hear about this damn fashion show one more damn time. But the reason why Vanessa kept bringing it up is because Vanessa felt like Angela wasn't truly taking responsibility for what happened or what didn't happen as far as the fashion show was concerned. So Angela apologized, and I think it was a sincere apology this time. And so they were able to kind of talk. I mean, they talked it out. They talked about the whole no compete clause and stuff like that again. And Angela was like, this isn't forever. It's just for right now while I'm working on this project. Like, it doesn't mean that we can never, ever work together again. So anyway, they talked it out and they worked it out. And they decided that they would start with this project with the Rush Foundation. I think that's what it's called, Rush Foundation. I've been trying to remember the name all this time, this Rush Foundation. But they said they would start with the Rush Foundation and then work their way up in moving into, other projects. So that was a good thing. All right. Now, Peppa, TT, Brianna, Tyron, Egypt. Oh, let's talk about Boogie. So Boogie is still in rehab, and we saw that he reached out to, Brianna, and they talked. They had a good conversation, and we see that he still hasn't talked to his father. And Boogie's thing is, my father has a lot of nicknames, and one of them is like the king of assholes or something like that, or international asshole. That's what it was. He was like, and to be honest with you, like I need to surround myself with positive vibes and positive people, and he's just not one, and I'm just not gonna surround myself with that anymore. I'm just not gonna be around that anymore. And so we see that his problem with his dad is deeper than just the whole intervention, because he forgave Brianna, and he even said that. He said, Brianna is my girl. I love Brianna, and I'm gonna forgive Brianna, even though she tricked me, but I know she did it for the right reasons, and I'm not even mad at her about it. And with most interventions, if the person gets help, that's usually how it ends out. They understand once they're sober and they're of clear mind. They understand that it was done with no malice. They understand the reason why you did what you did and why you felt like it had to be so drastic. The problem comes in with people who don't get any help, and then they're still sitting there mad at you. But again, you can only do what you can do. When you're dealing with addiction, you have to make the best decision for yourself when you're dealing with somebody who's going through addiction. And if you love them and it's family, you just gotta like what Dame said it. This means my son never speaks to me again. It's cool, but if he's still alive, I'm good. And that's the trade-off you make. Honestly, a lot of times when you're dealing with addiction, because you're not dealing with a sound mind. You're not dealing with it's like trying to have a serious conversation with a drunk person. It's never gonna work. They're not. That's never gonna work. So Anyway, excuse me. So then we see the other thing that came up. I'm sorry, y'all keep forgetting. The other thing that came up with Master P and with Romeo was the whole situation with his mom. If you remember, there was a really bitter situation between Romeo's mom and his dad, and the divorce. Because what happened was, to make a long story short, and this is my opinion, I'm no lawyer, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it seems like what happened was when the divorce came around, Master P put a lot of stuff in Romeo's name so that the wife couldn't get it. And so then the wife ended up suing Romeo. And it was a lot of, end up just really being the lawyers were the only ones getting paid. You know what I mean? And I'm not really sure how that whole thing resolved itself. They showed a couple of headlines, but I think they just sort of settled it. But in the meantime, it left a lot of bitterness. It left a lot of bitterness with the parties involved. I mean, imagine being sued by your mom. And I mean, Romeo's in the middle. Like, you're in the middle between your dad and your mom. Like, that's a lot. That's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard situation to be in. But anyway, all right. So TT, we found out that Pep has, because she's Egypt's manager, and we found out that Pep has been able to secure Egypt a clothing, I mean a bathing suit line through a major distributor. I guess she's going to have like her own bathing suit line through an already established company. Like, she's not starting from scratch and starting her own company, which is a great thing. Yay, we all happy for Egypt. That's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then they decide that it's time for TT and Brianna to make up. And they realize that the common denominator, they feel like Brianna feels like, excuse me, TT feels like her problem with Brianna is because of Troy and his messiness. It's easy to blame Troy for everything now. But TT, you was all in on that shit last season. And she even admitted it. She was like, it was one thing when me and him was talking about other people, but then when you start bringing it into the circle, that was the problem. At least you own your contradiction, okay? But because I'm a firm believer, if they'll do it with you about somebody else, they're gonna do it with somebody else about you. Like, that's rule number one. So they decide that they're gonna have a rose all day party, and they're gonna invite Brianna because they feel like that. All Brianna needs is a little bit. Brianna needs some D, is the exact quote. And maybe she wouldn't be so mean and nasty if she just got herself a little bit of something. Yeah, right. So they set up this rose all day party, and they're gonna invite Easy E's son because they know that there's a little situation between him and Brianna, and they're like, maybe we can rekindle the spark, and Brianna can get her a little something, something, and so forth and so on. So TT goes to invite Tyran, Pep's son, to the party. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm not coming. He was like, I came out here specifically to spend time with my mom, and I feel like I'm spending time with everybody except for her. I don't feel like she understands how bad our relationship is at this point and how serious this situation is about us trying to reconnect. And I really need to have a good heart to heart with her, and a rose all day party ain't it. So, and his thing is, and I like him because his thing is, I'm not even trying to pretend and laugh and joke with you when I know I got beef with you. And so he was like, I'm not coming. And he's clearly not staying at Pep's house because the party was at Pep's house. So I don't know where he's staying. I don't know. That's interesting. So he finds out that Egypt has this great, with the clothing line, this great deal. And, his thing is this, like, I'm not jealous of my sister. I'm jealous of the time my sister has with my mother. And there's a serious distinction. And I can appreciate that. He's like, I wish my dad, I mean, Lord, my dad, I wish my mom would do stuff with me like she does with Egypt. He was like, it's always her in Egypt. Everybody knows about Egypt. Nobody knows about me because she doesn't spend the same time with me that she spends with Egypt. And I'm just like, oh man, like, so they have the Rose all day party. Brianna and TT get to talk before the party starts. They have like a little conversation before the party gets started. And they talk it out. And again, they talk about Troy and how Troy was sort of in the middle being messy. And Brianna explains what she was saying. She was like, yeah. And again, for as much as Brianna is a bitch, and she gets on my nerves, Brianna owns her shit too. And, when TT said, well, Troy said you said that, and Troy said you said that, Brianna was like, yeah, I said it. But this is the context that I said it in. Like, she ain't try to backpedal and pussy pop. She was like, I said it. And I was like, I probably was like, man, this bitch, you know what I mean? But of course, Troy repeated it as she said, you a bitch, and she owned it. And they were able to talk and come to a conclusion. And what we find out in the conversation, though, is Brianna is not really tripping off of Romeo. Brianna likes Boogie. But Brianna said, she said, but Boogie ain't really checking for me like that. She was like, but, if I had the opportunity, I would get with Boogie. I would. She was like, but, but, Boogie needs to get it together first. Like, Boogie is not in a position to be with anybody right now. He needs to get his own shit together. And again, I can respect where Brianna's coming from with that, because she's right. Boogie ain't ready to be with nobody right now except for Boogie. But then here come Easy E's son, because they done already set up this whole little matchmaking thing. And Brianna was just like, TT, I just told you I'm trying to get with Boogie. Why the fuck you trying to hook me up with Eric? But it ends up being cool. They talk, they laugh about it. It ends up working out and being real cool, whatever. So, and of course, Peppa's bodyguard is there again. So then we see Pep talking to her son, because TT told Pep, look, he's got a problem with you. He ain't come to the party because he feels like that y'all need to have a big one-on-one. That he just, he's really upset at the fact that y'all not spending time together, da-da-da-da-da. So we see Pep attempt to have the conversation with Tyron. She said the only thing I know about him is that he likes martial arts. And so she lets him show her some of his martial arts moves and stuff like that. And while they're talking, while they're in the midst of this heavy conversation of them trying to hash some shit out, her phone rings and she takes the fucking call. And then she comes back and she's like, I apologize, I'm sorry, but that was the people calling me about Egypt's bathing suit line, and I just had to take the call. So we're right back where we started, because this is what he said to begin with, that's all you care about is Egypt and what's going on with Egypt. And me and you in the middle of trying to have this serious conversation, and you left the conversation to go talk to about something dealing with Egypt. So that's pretty much where we left off, with him being really frustrated and feeling like she just doesn't care about their relationship. And I'll be honest, I think some of this might be for the purposes of the TV show, but from what they're showing us, Pep, you can't be this clueless. Like, you can't not see. And she understands that she knows that she's shown more attention to Egypt. But in her mind, it's like, my career was in a different place when Egypt came along, and so I was able to spend more time with Egypt, which is valid. However, you have to understand how that looks and how he would feel about that whole situation. Like, you gotta understand how that connects in his mind. So anyway, that's kind of how it went down. That's what happened. So drop it in them comments. Let me know what y'all think. Is Pep being really clueless? Is the son wanting too much? What y'all think?